People are waking up to that and seeing that liberal policies are in fact hurting young people, and they won't tolerate it.
Whoa. So you still support affirmative action?
Look, I have great African American friendships. I have just amazing relationships, and so many positive things have happened.
Help. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. These statistical, moral, and legal arguments to end affirmative action are overwhelming, but here's the simplest. The Justice Department is entrusted with the responsibility to stop discrimination and protect civil rights for everybody. Perhaps, finally, it ought to be able to do just that.
Yes. No, Jordan, I'm sorry, man. The numbers show that there is still a huge opportunity gap between black people and white people. A black man's median income is $14,000, less than a white man's. In schooling, 34% of white people complete higher education, while that's only true for 20% of black people.
Affirmative action is a law that was put into place by Lyndon B. Johnson in 1965 that requires universities and places in the workforce to accept a certain number of members of a minority. Affirmative action allows for diversity to increase and gives minorities a level playing field due to their history of oppression. It has become a controversial topic in America because it focuses on equity instead of equality. People believe that affirmative action is an act of reverse discrimination and that it violates the 14th Amendment. 8 states have banned affirmative action, and major lawsuits have occurred, such as Bakke versus University of California in 1979 and Gratz versus University of Michigan in 2003. This heated topic needs to be improved, so we interviewed Indiana University students to see their views on affirmative action.
No, I do not know what affirmative action is.
Sure.
No, not really.
A little bit, but probably not as much as I should.
I think so, yeah.
Sort of.
Yes, I know what affirmative action is.
It's the idea that minorities need to be included in professional, like boards and things like that, and so they need to be provided more opportunities.
Well, it's a law requiring that when you hire somebody, you need to bring into account the composition of the people you are hiring.
So affirmative action is the idea that certain groups that are considered minorities are given positions or given something extra based off of the idea that they are a minority.
Affirmative action is the use of hiring minorities to meet a certain quota for each company in order to, basically seem that getting hired for that position would be fair.
Affirmative action is a legal mandate to take proactive steps to make it possible for people from underrepresented groups to have access to equal opportunities, employment, and other benefits that society provides.
According to Oxford Dictionary, affirmative action is the practice or policy of favoring individuals belonging to groups known to have been discriminated against previously. Surprisingly, only about half of those we interviewed had an idea of what affirmative action really is. The lack of education on the subject could be the reason it is such a controversial matter.
Yeah, I think so. Makes sense to me.
I want to say no, just because I feel like that type of program is unfair.
My initial reaction would be yes, but I'm not really informed enough to say.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I don't support affirmative action.
We found that Indiana University students typically support affirmative action and what it is intended to be. However, those who did not support it either felt that it was wrong because it goes against the 14th Amendment or because they believe they don't receive benefits from it and think it is unfair. According to Gallup's annual Minority Rights and Relations poll, 50% of Americans favor affirmative action programs for racial minorities, while 42% oppose it. 72% of blacks say they favor affirmative action programs by race, and only 21% oppose it, while more white people oppose it than support it.
In a way, yes, but there are better ways.
So, as a principle, is a correct principle?
I would say so with what I know about it, because I do think it's important to give people who haven't had the same opportunities as others kind of a fair shot at a higher education.
I think it could be more effective, but yeah.
I think so.
So no, not very. Like they're doing like the bare minimum almost.
I do think it's effective, yes.
No. A lot of places they say they want diversity, but they don't want diversity. What they actually want are people who look different, who have different last names, but who talk and act and behave in general with the status quo.
Currently, one of the biggest factors in the process of affirmative action is race. This helps diversify IU, but only in that way. Since affirmative action almost only considers race, most colleges just try to reach a quota. This causes a problem because universities no longer try to increase diversity, but instead only do what is required. Affirmative action is not effective in only considering one factor because it doesn't consider the full composition of the person.
Why should your daughters, when they go to college, get affirmative action?
Well, first of all, I think that my daughters should probably be treated by any admissions officer as folks who are pretty advantaged. And I think that there's nothing wrong with us taking that into account as we consider admissions policies at universities. I think that we should take into account white kids who have been disadvantaged and have grown up in poverty and shown themselves to have what it takes to succeed.
Even the former President of the United States, who is a supporter of affirmative action, agrees that currently it is a flawed system when only considering race. So what other factors should be considered?
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, financial status, I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yes.
Some students believe that affirmative action would not be more effective when considering financial status. However, the statistics prove otherwise. According to Stanford University, the gap in test scores between the higher income and lower income children has grown by about 40% and is now nearly twice as large as the black-white achievement gap.
Largely no.
You don't have to include the sexual orientation. These are private matters.
The results were nearly unanimous when asking if affirmative action should consider sexual orientation. That answer was no. Though sexual orientation would help increase diversity, there is no current evidence that someone does better or worse in school based on their sexual orientation.
I'm not sure that's the greatest way to go about it, but you could take it into consideration.
Yes.
It is very evident that ethnicity or nationality should be considered when using affirmative action. Not only will this broaden the scope of diversity on college campuses, but this process will also level the playing field for those who may not have had the time to learn English or who grew up in an environment that set them on a different level.
The final factor we interviewed people over was gender. However, everyone interviewed said no. Gender should not be considered. In reality, gender is of the predominantly used factors in affirmative action, giving female the edge, since on average they score less than their male counterparts. Affirmative action should not remove gender from their plan of action, but maybe it should not be the biggest factor.
One of the largest problems currently with affirmative action is that there is a lack of knowledge about the subject. This leads to many people criticizing it without being fully informed of what it is. Despite this, however, the current process of affirmative action is still flawed. Affirmative action is mainly concerned with race and gender, but it should work as it was intended by considering the composition of a person's life and not just one factor. Increasing knowledge and adjusting the way affirmative action is used would cause less conflict and shift many people's stance on the matter. Indiana University does well when considering factors of a person's life in the admissions process, but like many universities, it can improve. After asking IU students, they believe we should equally consider race, ethnicity, and financial status. Considering these factors would not only level the playing field for the underprivileged, but would also increase diversity among the college campus.